She is live from New Mexico to join me today. She's staying up drinking a lot of Diet Coke to stay awake, which I'm very honoured about, but she's going to be completely Diet Coked out by the end of this show. But I am really pleased to announce my guest today is none other than the very creative, the awesome, the spectacular, the very unique Gigi
Hey Reese, how's it
Bella.
going? I'm doing quite well.
Hello,
I'm
how are
not
you?
sleepy yet, so we're doing a good job.
Amazing, amazing. I really appreciate you being here today on the show. I know that you're live from New Mexico, which is very different because normally when I have American guests, they're either from LA or California. Last week, though, Elalane was actually live from Atlanta. So now it's very nice to meet someone who is now live in a very different place, New Mexico.
In
What's
New
it like over there at the
Mexico,
moment?
right now, the juniper's blooming like crazy, so allergies are insane. But it is very dry. The sunsets are crazy. We have our own style of food here. We have a famous question that we ask, which is red or green, which is referring to the chili. So we've got red chili and green chili. And I'll ask you with no context whatsoever, Reese, based on nothing at all. What's the correct answer to that question, red or green?
I'm
Ooh,
going to
hot
ask
take.
red, maybe.
I'm a green gal myself, but they're both good. Red is really good on mashed potatoes. Um,
Oh, fair
but yeah,
enough.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, mashed potatoes. Okay, that's quite interesting. Amazing. Well, anyway, it's really lovely to have you on this show. Not only because you was in one of my favourite films of 2025, but I've been following you on Instagram for a while now, and you do some really unique stuff. Like you do poetry, you do writing, you wear very unique costumes because obviously you love to dress up as well and perform. I'm guessing. So this is not just about obviously Eddington. We are going to talk about you, but let's start from the very beginning. When did you start getting into the whole writing and poetry to begin with? Is that what kicked it off for you?
Yeah, I started writing poetry when I was 15. My friend kind of tricked me into going to a poetry slam, um, which, if you're not familiar, is a competition. Um, and I had no idea what I had stumbled into. Um, it was really crazy, but I just fell in love with it. And I
Okay.
was very shy and didn't read in front of people for a long time. I just would show up and watch and write in my notebook at the back of the room. And then I had somebody come up to me and say, "Hey, we've seen you here a bunch of weeks in a row, and you're always scribbling at the back, and you should read something." Um, and so I gave it a shot. And I've been competing and performing for the last 16 years. I'm the 10th ranked woman poet in the world. Uh, and I've published a couple of books.
Oh wow.
Um, I'm a national poetry slam champion. I represented New York at a few competitions. It's pretty much been my whole life. And then it kind of culminated in me bringing a one woman show of my poetry and comedy and music and costumes all the way to your way, to the Edinburgh Fringe in Scotland last August. So it's been a wild ride. It's been a wild journey.
Oh wow. Wow, it sounds like it. And how did you how did you find the Edinburgh Fringe? Did you enjoy it? Was it
Yeah, it was
good?
lovely. Very different from where I'm from. But the folks were so kind, and I really enjoyed. I did a 10 show
Obviously.
run, um, and I loved doing that with the Hill Street Theater. Um, and I got to be out there with my band, and you know, it was just such a unique, amazing place. Like, how often do you perform down the street from a castle? It was really I really, really enjoyed it. Had a great time.
Amazing. And so, so you've done all that, and you've taken obviously your poetry and performing out there. You also do a bit of singing as well. Is being a musician also part of your like life choices or life career? Maybe like something that's where you want to go.
My life choices, definitely. Um, yeah, I love making music. I play a bunch of instruments. I was actually a songwriter before I was ever a poet or an actress or anything else. It just was the thing that kind of found me first. So I go back to it quite a bit. Um, I don't know that it's like a major path for me, but I find that I am a person, kind of like a Renaissance person. I just have a lot of these little side quests, and sometimes I'm making music, and sometimes I find myself in a movie, and it just kind of depends on the day.
Amazing. So, in terms of the acting part, then was that you said that was something that happened by accident, I guess. But when did your first, I guess, acting part begin? Was it with Eddington, or what, did you do any acting before you got your chance to be in
I've
that
been a
movie?
theater actress a long time, and I've done a lot of plays and musicals. That definitely is something that has my heart that I've also been doing since I was really young. But I've been in and out of it. The poetry stuff kind of took priority in my life. And so I have a lot of skill, that's just been kind of sitting dormant. I went to school for theater for a good long chunk of time and have studied with a lot of really amazing people. Um, but, I never really had any kind of professional opportunity to do something. And New Mexico is really, really ripe for the film industry. We've got Netflix studios with their hub here now, and there are many huge projects that have filmed here ever since Breaking Bad. So there's often like work to be done. And funny enough, I was raising money to go to Edinburgh. So I was looking around for casting calls and different things, and I ended up working background on quite a few sets. And when you're working background, you just kind of send in your photos. You find the casting calls and you send emails. And so I was just sending hordes of emails because I was trying to get these little like minimum wage jobs on these different sets. And all these casting calls were just on Facebook. So I was just sending emails based on these little posts on Facebook. And I saw one that was a call for protesters. They were asking if you had ever been to a protest and looking for people with dyed hair and tattoos and piercings. And so just people going to send in for that, but I had no idea what it was for. I had no idea the journey it was going to take me on. So, that was kind of an accident.
Amazing. Okay. So obviously that's what led you to Eddington then. But before we do talk about it, because obviously I will have a lot of questions to mention that. You right now you're in studying. What is it you're doing at the moment
Sure. I'm
currently
I'm
while
getting a
studying?
master's degree in Chicano studies, which is a cultural field based on Mexican identity. And I am Mexican and I identify as Chicana. Um, and I very proudly represent my culture through my poetry and through the advocacy that I do, especially in America right now. I think it's really important to advocate. So um, I am doing a lot of work on my thesis currently, which is about my time on Eddington and a lot of the positive experiences I had, um, and
Nice.
the
Okay.
way that
Amazing.
um, the way that Mexican folks appear in film and television.
Amazing. That is, yeah, that sounds great. So, so you're really putting your all into the whole culture side of it all, which is brilliant because it's always about following what you believe in and who you are and everything. And I love that. I love when people do their personal backgrounds into that. That's what makes the work more better. Okay, so I suppose we do need to go straight into the Eddington stuff because I do have a lot of questions I'd love
Yeah.
to ask you about that. The thing is, it means a lot to me because that film was just so brilliantly done. Ari Aster is a genius in my opinion. He is. He's so underrated. Even though he's done some good stuff, I still find that he's very underrated. A lot of people sometimes don't give him that much credit. They just kind of look at him and go, "Oh, he does these weird films." Where I think the only two films that they prefer to talk about is Hereditary
Mhm.
and Midsummer. Beau is Afraid and Eddington, they kind of sweeping under the carpet. But I mean, that's such a shame because I think they're both. To be honest, I think Beau is Afraid and Eddington are his better work. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Hereditary and Midsummer. They are really amazing films, but I feel like Beau was Afraid and Eddington had something in those films that just really kept you like
Mhm.
more under your skin and how the execution was on both those films because they were just so uniquely done. Um, so with Eddington, obviously, you worked with this genius. You probably obviously saw him and everything. So what was it like to meet Ari? And did you get a chance to talk to him, or what was it like to work with him in
Yeah.
general?
So Ari is my favorite director. Uh, and I did get to meet him. I did get to speak with him. He's lovely. He's really like just a wonderful, sweet person. You would not think that all of that is going on in his head when you're talking to him. But he's just very generous with his time and um, the way that he works with the people around him. So, in the process of kind of sending in for that Facebook call, I sent in a bunch of stuff and then didn't hear back for a very, very long time. And I was sending, hundreds of emails. So I didn't even think about it. But then I got a request. I mean, I got a phone call one day, and this woman was like, "You need to clear your schedule for Friday. You need to be available on Friday." And I was like, "Okay, I don't know what's going on." And then the next thing I knew, I had a Zoom request with Ari Aster in my inbox. And so we had a meeting, an audition over Zoom. Um, it was insane. I've never been so nervous in my entire life. Uh, and, I did have things I had to prepare and things they wanted to see. Um, but mainly, he just wanted to talk to me about me. And he wanted to ask me about my experience with the protests in 2020, about my experience with police violence. So we had a chance to talk really intimately about those things and my personal experience with them, which I found incredibly meaningful, that he cared enough to converse with me that way. Um, because, to him, I'm like such a small part of this whole thing, but he took that time out and I really appreciated it. Um, and from there, then it was just it was like an agonizing month of waiting and thinking that I didn't get it and feeling so depressed and just like beside myself. Um, I had this like shirt that kind of looked like those costumes they wear in Midsummer when they're going to do the ritual dance thing. So I put on that shirt. I put on that shirt and I lit a candle every day, like as a ritual. And I played "Always Be My Baby" by Mariah Carey because that's the song in Beau is Afraid. And so I just did like a little Ari Aster ritual every day because I was holding out hope that I was gonna book this movie. Um, and sure enough, after like a month of waiting, I booked it and it was like very whirlwind. Then they were like, cool, next week you're coming to Truth or Consequences. We're going to film. We're doing this and this. You be here for a week, all this stuff. And yeah, we went out there and had a rehearsal with him. Joaquin Phoenix came to the rehearsal and just meeting and talking with them is regular and normal. It was crazy. It was crazy, and really, my favorite part of the whole thing was getting to read his script and getting to watch him work, because he really is masterful and he really is overlooked, and I just think he deserves all the flowers in the world. Like, he's just such an intentional artist. And you can see him and Darius Kanji trying to make sure the clouds in the sky line up, and we're all waiting out there sunburned, like, we don't care about the cloud, but they care about the cloud. It's they need it for their movie. And it was really, really cool to get to be a part of that.
That is incredible. I mean, honestly, that was such an investing story. I loved it. That was just amazing. And the fact that you got to meet the master as well, and you talking about him is just so surreal to me. That's just amazing. I mean, yeah, he is. He is a master filmmaker, and I absolutely love what he does. And what you said as well about him being such a sweet man, and you wouldn't imagine him thinking this. It's so weird you should say that, because Nathan Lane from Beau is Afraid said that when he met Ari, he said, "Oh, he's adorable and he's such a sweet man." And you wouldn't
Yeah.
think he would make such a messed up movie, because he's such a lovely guy. So when you said that, it was just like what Nathan Lane kind of said, that he's this lovely guy, but you wouldn't think he would be making these insane films. But obviously, I mean, I loved about the history of Eddington. Like, I was reading a lot of backstory about it, and the fact that Ari made it because of Twitter. He said if it wasn't because of Twitter, this film would not have been made. And I completely agree, because, by the way, I hate Twitter. I used to have Twitter, but I deleted it because it's so negative and it's so horrible. It is literally probably one of the worst of all the social medias, in my opinion. I mean, I'm more of an Instagram guy, definitely, but honestly, Twitter was a terrible thing. And obviously,
Hmm.
he was right about his anxieties during COVID. But when I was watching that film, what I loved about it was that you could laugh at it, because they really did go to the absurd satire of it. But at the same time, you're like, wow, we were really that messed up years ago, and we really didn't take it very well, and we were making up our own rules, and if you didn't follow that person's rules, and you were going to get in trouble for it and all that sort of thing. I mean, in my opinion, COVID was definitely the worst couple of years. I mean, 2020 and 2021, in my opinion, were some of the worst years I ever had in my life. I mean, I was depressed during COVID. It was horrible. The anxiety, the panic and everything. And now I look back on it, I'm just like, oh, it was just such a bad time. But the movie, in a way, what I love what Ari's done, in a way, it's kind of like a middle finger to them, to say, look, you were this bad, you were this insane, you were this paranoid, you were this, you didn't really take matters into your own hands in a certain way. So in a way, I kind of like that he's kind of stuck a middle finger to the world to say, this is what did happen, this is what we did think, and you got to accept that. Because I remember when the media backlash, they were like, oh, we weren't this bad, this movie's not telling the truth, and I remember watching the film and I was like, yeah, this is exactly what was going on, and this is how insane we kind of did get, so that's what I love about what Ari done. Because funny enough, just a little bit about what I done, I recently made a film called The Bucket, which came out last year. And because nowadays I've noticed that since after COVID, the world has definitely become very aggressive. And we're now getting, everyone's at that stage where everybody's offended by everything now. Like, literally everything. It's ridiculous. So I made a film called The Bucket, because the film was basically taking the mick out of comedy, to say, do you know what, I am going to write whatever the hell I want. Because it got to a stage where even casting actors now, you could write something that was so innocent, but they read the script and they go, oh, there's a red flag there, I'm not saying this, I'm not doing that. And I'm like, why? I'm like, what's wrong with it? Oh, because it's offensive. What's offensive? You're just saying the word it. What's offensive about the word it? You know what I mean? It got that bad. Anyway, so because of this ridiculous mind that everyone seems to have, where everything's bad, everything's negative, I wrote the film to do a middle finger to the world, to say, I'm going to write whatever comedy I want, and if people get offended, I don't care. And amazingly, people loved my film. They loved it. They said, this is the comedy that we need back. I said, yes, We do, and luckily, thanks to Seth MacFarlane, who done the Ted series, and he done the new Naked Gun movie with Liam Neeson, and now we got a Scary Movie 6 coming. It's like at last they're bringing back the comedy that we all love and that we all should have, because at the end of the day we only live once. We need to enjoy life and laugh again like we used to. And I feel like COVID did kind of suck out all that energy and positivity from everybody, because there was people that I saw after COVID and they just weren't themselves again, and it was like, yeah, but COVID's now over, we can try to repair ourselves, but they were like, no, everything's negative now, everything's bad, we can't have that. And so I can kind of see what Ari was doing at the same time with that, with his, the satire of it all and how the tone kind of changed as well. So I really admire Ari for doing that. So when he done it and I was watching it, I was like, that's kind of like what I'm doing, kind of middle finger to the world and say, look, you are this insane, you are this paranoid. We need to learn to relax and stick together again and not go against each other and all that sort of thing. And that's what I
Yeah,
loved about
I
the
think
editing stuff. Um,
I think
Also, of
that
course,
the main
oh,
thing that I go back to when I hear him talk about the film and his reasons behind why he made it and the way that he chose to go about it. I really, really like when he speaks about hyper individualism, like just all of us existing in our own bubble and being completely, totally um,
yes.
out of touch with people around us and the world around us, and that he wanted to make a movie about that weird kind of selfishness that we can inhabit when we're afraid, when we're in times of crisis, and when things are feeling really like a powder keg. And I think
Yes.
um, I really appreciated that he was able to find the humor in it, that he was able to find the humanity in it. And I think that it's a really valuable movie for those reasons. I think it'll become, over time, the definitive movie about that time in
Yes.
history. Um, and I think he really did, put his own stamp on the message, like you're saying. And I think it's important for artists to do that, especially in historical
Yes.
moments like that, that need to be preserved through commentary, and through art. And, I think he did a really great job of it.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, well, yeah. I mean, every film he does, he does a great job. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I know, and he was even saying again about the whole fact that we used to trust each other, and since COVID, that line has now been cut, and now we're just kind of like, as you said, everyone's doing their own selfish ways, and they're just like, no, I'm looking out for me now, and everyone else can screw themselves and all that. And I can, I can definitely see what he was trying to say as well, because I remember I saw an interview when he was mentioning that and how the negative impact has come. But yeah, it's true. It's true.
Mm-hmm.
And but that's what I love what he done, because it was a sort of like, like I said, a sort of middle finger to the world to say, yes, this is how bad it got. But that's what I love. I love when people do films like that, when they do say, look, you are like this. The world has become like this. Don't deny it. Just stick at it. And that's why people get so angry, because they don't like to hear the truth. In a way, Eddington was like a free speech film. And my film, The Bucket, was like a free speech film. And basically we're just trying to say, look, at the end of the day, my film in particular was like, look, we need to learn to stick together again and not be so selfish. And we're all going through stuff and we all have stuff going on, but we can't like be, against each other, and don't not everyone's
Yeah,
bad. Everyone's got stuff going on.
I
We're
mean,
all
I
sort of
think
anti-heroes
something
in
that
our
really
own
stuck
way.
with me also from the other side of it, like being directed in that space, and like when we would talk on set about what we were doing,
Yeah.
even though it was this like dark comedic approach to this moment, everything that we were doing and the way that we were
Yeah.
directed to do it was completely earnest. And we were just directed to be as
Oh,
truthful as humanly
absolutely.
possible, and to really, really buy in and believe in the things that
Absolutely.
we were saying and putting out there. And when you think about that and think about that, like you were saying, not everyone is just bad all the time. I think that we all, in our own way, are acting in earnest. We're trying to live truthfully, and sometimes those things don't match up. And it's really, really difficult when that conflict happens. And I think we've lost the ability to speak through that conflict. And instead,
Yeah,
we just kind of erupt into chaos, which is
absolutely.
what happened in the film, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what the movie is, big
Yeah.
chaos. And it was, Um, okay, so now we've got the whole, COVID political stuff out of the way. We'll just jump back into the film. So when I look back at your part now, when I noticed I was going to interview you, I look back at your part and I see you
Mhm.
standing behind Joaquin Phoenix in the shot where he's arguing with one of the kids, like a proper, very controversial argument with one of the kids, which it did sort of make me laugh a little bit
Yeah.
because it's like watching two children argue, except Joaquin Phoenix is acting like the child and the child's acting more like the adult, and that's what kind of made it a little bit funny. And there's you in the back going, "Ah," screaming and all that and everything. It was really good. So with that scene. How many shots did it take to do that scene? And secondly, was that the final? Like, was there more to that scene when the final cut got released? Like, was there more going on in the script and the scene, or was the final scene we see the actual shot that you needed? Like, was
Oh
it, or was there
man,
more
Reese.
in it?
It so that scene, uh, that scene took an entire day. It took an entire 12-hour day, 13-hour day. And it originally was like 21 pages long. There was a small group of about 11 of us
Oh
that
wow!
were cast as these named protesters. Um, and we were all just like young people who had not had a big break on a film yet. And I thought that was really, really neat that he like sought us out specifically. And so we kind of all got to have this experience together, which was really amazing. And those are people who are dear to me because we all burned out in the sun together for many hours. But we had to do a rehearsal for the scene, so we had a whole day that was just rehearsal. Um, and there was a smaller protest scene, which is the one where he's like coming around the corner in the car after he sees Eric on his bike and whatever else. And there was a tiny little group of us, so we rehearsed that at the end of the day, and I'm in that little group, looking very blonde, and then we rehearsed the big huge protest scene, like the 11 of us out in the street. And um it we got new pages the night before. So then there was stuff, even more stuff being added. As part of my audition, I had to send in a protest that I improvised. So I had to improvise my own, like, about a cause, about something that I believe in. And when I got pages the night before the big day, a whole like chunk of my improv was in the script. So I had like a whole monologue. When you see me following Joaquin and yelling at him, that's what I'm yelling, is the stuff from my audition. And I have these pages that have my words on them, but they're from, like a watermarked Ari Aster script, which was really, really surreal. But there were many, many like pieces like that for the 11 of us that are in that scene. But now we're all pretty indecipherable. Um, but I mean, it was like they were turning those cameras and they were like, all right, now we're going to get this shot of Emery, and now we're going to turn over here and we're doing Caleb and this guy, and now we're doing this thing over here and capturing this one argument. And it happens so fast, and it's like a 6-minute scene in the movie. But I mean, it was all day for us. And in Truth or Consequences, that's south, so the weather's very, very temperamental, and it's hotter. It's about like 10 or 15 degrees hotter. So my shoes were melting and my eyeballs got sunburned. I didn't know that was a thing that could happen. But we were out there and they would stop a shot and there would be people running at you with umbrellas and sunscreen and spraying the part in my hair and spraying us down with sunscreen. We have to like down Gatorade in 15 seconds. And then they're like, all right, we're resetting, we're rolling, we're getting ready to do it all again. And it was crazy because the scene was so intense, so we were all just, and there were like 200 people out in the street also, like extras. So I mean, it was just chaos. It was super, super insane. We had a big camera on a huge crane just sweeping in and out, and you had to not get taken out by that camera. You had to be really aware of where that camera was all the time. It was the craziest thing. Yeah, I don't. It was much longer. It was insane, and one of the most insane days of my life for sure.
I'm sure it was, but
Oh
I'm
yeah,
sure it was all worth it, 100%. I mean, to work with Joaquin and to work with Ari Aster, I mean, you definitely, you hit the mark there, 100%. And like I said, I did watch that scene a little bit, a couple of times, because I knew I was going to be interviewing you, so I was analysing it, and I was just like, I wonder how long it took to do that scene. I wonder if you had a part, like maybe you could have slapped Joaquin's hat off his head or something, or I mean, I don't know. You never know. It could have been in an outtake or something, but no, that's really great. I really
yeah.
appreciate that you answer those questions. I'm sure that's really, really great. So now you've had that experience being in that film, and now it's there, and people have been approaching you since then because obviously they know that you're on there and everything. As you said, you've had a lot of people come up to you because of that scene. I mean, would extra work and maybe acting now be in a direction for you to go on for,
I
along with
tell
the poetry and the
people
writing?
that being in Eddington was kind of one of my side quests. It really, I never could have predicted that in a million years, and I'm so grateful and so blessed. Um, and I feel like the world's luckiest woman, really. But for me, I I would love to work on another film eventually at some point. However, I know that there are folks for whom that's the dream and the goal and the big thing for life, and that is not necessarily my goal. But I what I realized and what I learned from that experience put me in a place where I would really, really like to use the position I'm in to create some positive change. And I think there are some changes that are long overdue. So I'm using my schoolwork, I'm using my upcoming book of poetry and this experience on Eddington to talk about some practices within casting that I believe are unfair towards Mexican people, and especially the New Mexican people working here. There's a lot of derogatory terms that get thrown around in casting calls. And I've made it my mission to have those completely eradicated. I think that there's a level of respect that is missing. And people kind of say, oh, we need those stereotypes to exist in order to do our job. And I just really believe that there's a better way to do it. And Eddington taught me that. They put out a casting call that was very like direct, saying, "Hey, have you ever been in a protest? We're looking for these people. We're looking for if you have these things that match up." It wasn't derogatory. It wasn't unkind. It wasn't like seeing anybody a certain way. But when you watch the film, we're kind of like punk teenagers. Like we're awful. We're not the heroes of the movie. They could have been really awful in that casting call, and they weren't. And I just think that that should be the standard. That should be the baseline. And so I'm using the spot I'm in to kind of pursue that. I think that's the best thing we can do with a tiny platform, is get out a megaphone and start speaking for good.
Amazing. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to stop the questions there now. But that was brilliant to listen to. Honestly, Gigi, I appreciate that you told me this story and what you thought and what the experience was like. It's incredible. And the fact that you was in the movie and you're talking to me about it is it's just so surreal and amazing because like I said, Ari Aster is one of my favorite directors, and the fact that you got to be in one and you did it and everything, it's just incredible. And the fact that now I've got you as a contact and I guess a new friend now to talk to about that sort of thing is just great, and it's so inspiring to hear you talk about that you want to write about film and you know where you live there's filming going on and you got Netflix and you worked with Ari Aster and all that. It's just amazing, like everything you've done and everything that seems to be going on is incredible. It's just amazing. It's really investing. It's very influential. So and it's very inspiring as well. So that is fantastic that you've done it. So well
Thank
done,
you.
and congratulations again. And it's amazing. However, as you know, you are on Manigan's Movie Music, and I will be talking to you next about some films and everything like that. But first, I think we better take a nice breather. The ads are going to be starting playing in about 10 minutes, so we're going to play some tracks, go on to the ads, and then we're going to get into the second half of the show. So I'll be talking to you about films in general and some stuff that's going on and your opinions on bits and bobs. Also, of course, I need to review the movie Hoppers, which I will be talking about next after that as well. So yes, guys, so don't go anywhere. We'll be walking into the second half of the show. So I'm going to be playing the first track until the ads come on, and we'll be with you after these. As I said, you're listening to Manigan's Movie Music live on Love the Beat Radio. That was the track from Road to El Dorado. That was Tu Shibaba. That was a very underrated DreamWorks film, in my opinion, Road to El Dorado. It was out in the 90s. Great animated film from DreamWorks, back when they used to do 2D animation at the time, if you remember that. Yeah, good times. Anyway, you're listening to the second half of Manigan's Movie Music, live on Love the Beat Radio. And I'm here with me today with my very special guest, Gigi Bella. Okay.
Hello again.
Okay, right. So now we are going to talk about. We're going to talk about some films now, as I was mentioning before, because what I do with my guest every time on Manigan's Movie Music is I like to talk about basically if you have any favourite films, if there's any films you've experienced or anything like that, because it's always nice to hear people's opinions on movies and stuff like that and what you think. So let's jump into the first question is, do you have a top 3 favourite films or anything like that?
Oh, such a difficult question, but I will say that I'm prepared because my brother's boyfriend, John, is a film connoisseur, and this is his favorite question to ask people upon meeting them. Uh, so my favorite movie of all time is Selena.
Okay.
Um, Classic Mexican cultural film. Uh, J Lo's Big Break, big deal. That is a movie I firmly believe should have won an Oscar. Like, it's such an incredible screenplay. Can't recommend. Little Shop of Horrors. Uh, Big fan of old school movie musicals, but also they like did everything by hand, so they built all that stuff. I think that
Yeah.
that is so cool and so crazy. And I love Ellen Green, and I grew up with a crumb part of my brain. Third spot, I'm probably going to go with Midsummer. It's a weird list, but I loved Midsummer so much.
Same.
I really like. I thought it was such an amazing way to interpret a, a breakup, count and discard those feelings, and he really like dug in and showed the nitty gritty, like insane parts of what that feels like. So I loved that movie.
Amazing. Yeah, Midsummer. I mean, that was actually my second favorite film of 2019. Actually, funny enough. And like I said, Ari Aster. I mean, the guy's a genius, and he's done every film he's done is amazing. I mean, yeah, we all know about that.
Oh yeah.
In terms of okay, so judging by that list, you definitely have a horror taste. I mean, I'm definitely a horror fan myself, so obviously, horror films are always my forte. Is there? Do you? I mean, obviously, when I've seen your stuff as well, you dress up with a lot of horror
Mhm.
characters as well. So, is horror definitely one of your favorite genres as well, or is it just something that you like the look of the characters more and like to dress up like them more?
Um, I do really love horror movies. I That is recent. That's since like 2019. I had a person in my life who was very into horror movies and I was not at all. But something that we would do together is sit and just run through all these movies that I had never seen because I was a big fraidy cat. And I think it really helped me confront my anxiety in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Um, so now I really do have a soft spot for a lot of them. But as far as the costumes, I think the ones that you saw, I do a week of costumes for Halloween every year.
Oh,
And
nice.
this year my week was A24 themed. So I did a lot of horror characters under that theme.
Amazing. Yeah. One of them that I loved, which had to be one of my favorites, was Pearl. Like that was great.
That one was so fun. That was so fun.
Yeah, I mean, you match that one so well. And Pearl was also one of my favourite films to come out in 2023. That was when it came out in the UK. I know it came out in 2022 in America, but we got it back in 2023. In fact, it came out on my birthday, coincidentally. So that was my birthday movie. And I love that when that happens, when there's a film that I really want to see and it comes out my birthday. And I remember the Batman done it. In fact, because of COVID, um, the Batman came out in 2022, and it was the first cinema film I saw since after
Yeah.
COVID, because 2019 was I had a cinema film that year, and then 2020 21, obviously, films didn't get released properly back then. And then when 2022 come along, it was like the Batman comes out in March. I was like, oh, that's my birthday film. And it was so nice to go back to the cinema and go and see my birthday movie, which was The Batman, which also became one of my favourite films of that year. So when Pearl come out the year later, I was like, oh, that's my birthday movie. So that's why. But that was so good. I mean, that was part of the X trilogy as well, because they did X, then they did Pearl, and then they did Maxine.
Yeah.
They were all brilliant in my opinion, but Pearl
Mm.
definitely was my favourite. I think there was something about Pearl that just felt so much more investing, entertaining. I think it was because it was like an old school film. It felt like it was a movie that was made in the 40s, and it was such a love letter to Wizard of Oz and Mary Poppins and stuff like that. And I love when films do that. I love when they treasure the old vintage style films. It's so nice. That really has a good feel to it. Okay, so because of all the costumes you've worn and everything, do you have a particular favourite one that you've made, or dressed up as a certain character that you've gone? That's my highlight.
Um, Good question. I mean, it's been kind of a that also is its own journey, and I started um formally making costumes again to raise money to go to Edinburgh. So I was making costumes for Taylor Swift's Eras tour for girls to like wear to the concert, and I was shipping them all over the world because of her costumes. So I've got a couple of those things that I'm really proud of. Um, this past year, I really loved the A24 week. It was such a joy to cap off the week by dressing up as myself for Halloween. That was very fun. I dressed up as myself in Eddington.
Yeah, I saw the clip.
So that was kind of, not the most intricate costume, but very, very fun. I also did, I think out of the week though, my favorite was dressing up as Zac Efron in Iron Claw. Um, and I gave myself muscles, six pack, some washboard abs. Um, I gave myself 5 o'clock shadow. It was really just because I was like, man, if I put my hair up, we have the same haircut. And that hurt my feelings a little bit, but also I just had to lean in.
Mm,
It's important.
amazing. Okay, so obviously you said about horror and you talked about your favorite films in general. In terms of like, if you so looking back at all these classic horror films from whenever till now, if you could be in any horror film that or any particular film that was your favorite, which one would it be and why? Not as an extra, like as a character.
In any horror
Yeah.
film, in any film in general. I mean, I would hate to be in a horror film unless I got to die in a really cool way. I really loved the movie Green Room. Name.
Such an underrated
But it was
movie.
so punk rock, and I really loved the like. Yeah, I really loved, when they shredded that guy's arm into noodles. That was cool. Um, so either Aaliyah Shawkat or Imogen Poots in that movie, like that, I think that would be really, yeah. But I mean, uh, I don't know. I'm like, I would love to be in a Guillermo del Toro movie. Everybody they was they were such big haters about the shape of a
Mm.
fish.
Yeah, I mean, Del Toro's incredible, and he done Frankenstein, which was one of my favorite films of last year, which I absolutely loved, and that was just a masterpiece, and I'm glad as well that that had recognition, especially for being a horror film, but it's won awards, and that's what I'm so glad about. That horror is now finally getting recognition, especially from last year, and sorry, the year before in 2024 when The Substance and
Yeah.
Romulus and all that was getting nominated. So finally, at last, they're seeing the talent. Do you
Hmm.
know what though? In terms of your casting, though, I could definitely see you if you was to play characters in film. I could definitely see you in a movie called Strange Darling, which is a film which is very underrated, which I definitely recommend you check out. Very good film. And I can also see you in one of them comedy films where you play one of those hippies who's like going, oh, but if you take this will give you some magical wishes. If you don't take this one, you'll just fall asleep. I can definitely see you doing stuff like that. Um, so I can definitely like seeing the casting side of that. That'd be really awesome. Okay, brilliant. So if you, but so I mean, you were very lucky to work on Eddington along with A24 and everything. Like they're so great with what they do, and obviously you mentioned Midsummer, which is another A24 film. But do you have an A24 film in general that stands out for you, because they do some really good ones? I mean, for me, there's so many to pick, but if you could pick like the ones that stick out the most for A24, which one do you reckon it'd be?
Oh, tough question. I mean, I loved everything everywhere all at once.
Oh, great
Uh,
movie.
um, that's maybe like kind of a boring answer.
No, no,
Because
it's great.
I know everybody really loved that movie. I'm trying to think, like, thinking back, I really loved Y2K. That was a really underrated one, but I
Yeah,
really
that was
loved Y2K.
okay. I wouldn't think it was great.
That
It wasn't as good
was
as I thought it
Kyle
was.
Moon. I think it was like fun in a way that I appreciate, like off the wall goofball fun. Um, but I mean, I love all of Ari's stuff. I
Mm,
also really loved Love Lies Bleeding. That was a
yeah,
good movie.
that's a really good one. Love
Um,
Lies Bleeding was very underrated.
but I mean, if A24, yeah, I mean, anything they make, I'll watch it. I'm there. I mean, they're my employer. So you know,
That's true.
I'm just going to work. I'm just clocking in.
That's true. That's true. That's great. Yeah, and who knows? You might even end up being an extra in another A24 movie. So that you never know where it could lead, and that'd be so thrilling if you could. That would probably be the most exciting job you could ever possibly get. That'd be amazing. Right. Okay. Right. We're gonna play another track, guys, just so we can have a little breather, and
Yes, call me. Put me in another one.
and we're gonna just update on some movie news as well, because I think there's some movie news I do need to bring up probably later on, because there has also been, speaking of horror, there has been some new horror trailers coming out as well, so we definitely need to talk about the trailers that have been coming out this week and about my enthusiasm about that film. So here's a little track from the movie Sinbad. Anyway, we were listening to Manigan's movie music live on Love the Beat Radio. Me, Reese Manigan, and I had a very special guest today, Gigi Bella, who of course was in the film Eddington. She is part of my Massive March guests, and honestly, I can honestly say she has been absolutely terrific. She's answered questions really well. She's been very open, and it's been such an honour to have her on this show and to be part of Massive March. I'm very honoured she stayed up so late in New Mexico to be part of the show as well. And the fact that she stayed for the full 2 hours shows what incredible sport she is. Because normally when I have American guests, they only want to do half an hour, 45 minutes, but she stayed for the full 2 hours, and I'm so honoured she has. Gigi, let's get your final thoughts. What have you thought about the show and everything? And have you had a really good time? And yeah, what's your final thoughts?
I've had a great time. Thank you so much for having me, Reese. I really enjoyed talking about the film and getting to talk movies with you. Um, and yeah, I really appreciate the space. I also hope to come back and talk to you when my book comes out. I have a book coming out in June with Button Poetry called Without the Frills, that is also about film industry and has some poems from my time on Eddington. We're already scheduling a visit to the UK so I can come and talk to you about some of this stuff in person, which would be
Ah,
amazing.
amazing. Well, if you ever
Um,
do come to London, you better
Hopefully
call
after the
me.
book comes
Yeah.
out. So yeah, yeah. I mean, it was so great. I would love to come back and do it again sometime.
Well, if you want, maybe, who knows, if you're promoting your book and you're going to be talking about it, maybe you could even come on the show and promote that book and, and talk about it and everything like that. That would be amazing. So, yes, you are more than welcome to come to the studio live and talk about that book, talk about Eddington again, your experiences and everything. That would be amazing. So, yes, definitely something for the future, 100%. So there you go, guys. Gigi Bella will be making a pending return in the future. So there you go. So who knows? But Gigi, yeah, it's been lovely to have you. You've been an amazing guest. Honestly, you've actually been one of my favourite guests on the show. It's been such an honour to have you, to hear your stories about Eddington, Ari Aster, your experiences. It's honestly so investing and inspiring. And Honestly, it's incredible. So you are definitely welcome to come back anytime. And to, like I said, if you ever come to the UK, we will definitely make sure you come on this radio show, and you're live in the studio and everything to promote that book, promote anything you're doing. Because trust me, we would welcome you here with open arms. So again, thank you so much for your time and everything. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you, Reese. Thank you so much. And thank you to the radio station. And shout out to Michael. And yeah, really, really enjoyed my time.
Amazing. So there you go, guys. That was Gigi Bella, who played a protester in the film Eddington, and she was part two of a massive march that is still continuing because, guys, next week, live in the studio, you are not going to believe who I've got next. I know I've probably mentioned it before, but if you've just heard it now, I will be bringing in Wallace from Wallace and Gromit. Mr. Ben Whitehead himself will be coming to the studio to talk to me, and I am super, super excited for him to come here. I mean, I think of all the guests, along with Gigi, along with Ilani, and along with LMA Demokan, I he is going to be one of my biggest guests I've ever had on this show, and it is going to be absolutely insane. So please, guys, tune in next week for that, because it's an exclusive interview. He'll be here live with me in the studio, and I cannot wait to talk to him. It is going to be absolutely amazing. I'm so buzzed, and the fact that this March I've had these incredible, wonderful guests this month. I appreciate all of them that have come on, and the fact that I've got these guests and everything. It's been so surreal to me. It really is. Ilani was actually one of my most tuned in show at the moment. So who knows what how many people tuned in for Gigi, and I will find that out hopefully later today. But today has been an absolute amazing show. It's been a great show and so action packed. Definitely one of my favourite shows I've done. And I cannot wait for next week as well. It's going to be insane. So next week is the final part of Massive March, because I will bring Ben Whitehead in. Okay, guys, so if you have tuned in, thank you so much to everybody. And as I say every week, that is a wrap. Tune in next week, guys, for Massive March. Thank you so much.